Picture this. You're scrolling through your phone at 2 a.m., your mind racing with tomorrow's deadlines, next week's presentations, and that nagging feeling that you're somehow falling behind in life's endless rat race. Sound familiar? Well, here's the thing. Over 2,000 years ago, a wise old sage named Lao Tzu was dealing with pretty much the same chaos, and he left us a roadmap out of this madness. The Tao Te Ching isn't just some dusty philosophical text. It's like having a personal mentor who whispers, "Hey, there's actually a way to find inner peace without losing your mind in the process." Now, let's be real for a second. We've become absolutely obsessed with control, haven't we? We're constantly chasing status updates, both literally and figuratively, drowning ourselves in excessive consumption and materialism that promises happiness but delivers stress instead. It's like we're all running on this giant hamster wheel, convinced that if we just run faster, we'll somehow reach tranquility. But here's what Lao Tzu figured out centuries ago. We've completely disconnected ourselves from the natural flow of life, and that disconnection is precisely what's driving us crazy. The ancient wisdom of Taoism suggests that our modern obsession with achievement and self-optimization might actually be the very thing keeping us from the peace we're desperately seeking. The beautiful irony is that while we're living in the most connected era in human history, we've never been more disconnected from what actually matters. Recent scientific studies show that our brains aren't wired to handle the constant bombardment of choices, notifications, and social comparisons that define modern life. Yet Lao Tzu's teachings offer us something revolutionary, a way to navigate contemporary challenges without becoming another casualty of burnout culture. His philosophy of Wu Wei, the art of not forcing, isn't about becoming lazy or giving up. It's about discovering that sometimes the most powerful action is knowing when not to act. And trust me, once you understand this concept, you'll start seeing how much energy you've been wasting swimming against currents that were never meant to be fought. Here's what's absolutely wild about our current society. We've somehow convinced ourselves that being our own slave drivers is the path to freedom. Think about it. We wake up every morning with this internal taskmaster cracking the whip, demanding we optimize everything from our morning routines to our sleep cycles. It's like we've turned life into one giant performance review where we're both the employee and the harsh boss who's never satisfied. The achievement society has created this bizarre reality where having a PhD isn't enough anymore. Nope, you also need the six-pack abs, the perfect relationship, the Instagram-worthy social circle, and oh, don't forget to run those marathons while building your side hustle. We've become achievement subjects in our own lives, constantly pushing ourselves toward some imaginary finish line that keeps moving further away. The crazy part is how we've normalized this self-exploitation as if it's some kind of virtue. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor, bragging about how little sleep we got or how many projects we're juggling simultaneously. It's become socially unacceptable to admit you're tired, to say you need a break, or heaven forbid, to suggest that maybe, just maybe, we don't need to optimize every single aspect of our existence. Our minds have become these endless to-do list generators, churning out tasks faster than we can complete them, creating this perpetual state of anxiety where we're always behind, always lacking, always needing to do more. The hustle culture has convinced us that rest is laziness, that contemplation is wasted time, and that if we're not constantly grinding, we're somehow failing at life. What's particularly insidious is how this pressure has infiltrated every corner of our existence. From the apps that track our steps to the meditation programs that gamify our inner peace, we've even managed to turn stress management into another thing to stress about. The irony is thick enough to cut with a knife. We're so busy optimizing our lives that we've forgotten how to actually live them. Recent studies on burnout reveal that this constant self-optimization isn't just exhausting. It's literally rewiring our brains to crave more stimulation, more achievement, more validation. And while we're running this endless race against ourselves, something much more profound is slipping through our fingers. The simple ability to be present, to find contentment in what is, rather than what we think should be. Let's talk about what this relentless pace is actually doing to us, because the numbers are pretty sobering. Stress, burnout, depression, and anxiety have become so commonplace that we've started treating them like the weather, just something we have to endure rather than address. It's as if we've collectively agreed that feeling overwhelmed is the price of admission to modern life. The World Health Organization now recognizes burnout as an occupational phenomenon, which is basically their polite way of saying, yeah, this whole system is making people sick. We're witnessing an entire generation that's simultaneously more connected and more isolated than any before it, scrolling through highlight reels while their own lives feel increasingly hollow and frantic. The pursuit of having it all has created this bizarre reality where nothing ever feels like enough. You get the PhD, but then you need the perfect body. You get the perfect body, but then you need the amazing social circle. You build the social circle, but then you need to document it all for social media validation. It's like we're trapped in this endless game where the goalposts keep moving, and the prize for winning one level is just access to a more demanding level. Meanwhile, our brains, which evolved to handle maybe 150 social relationships max, are now expected to manage thousands of digital connections, process infinite choices, and maintain constant awareness of global events. No wonder we're exhausted. We're running hardware from 50,000 years ago on software that updates daily. And frankly, it's a miracle any of us are still functioning. What's particularly heartbreaking is how we've lost the art of simply being. When was the last time you sat somewhere without immediately reaching for your phone? When did you last have a conversation without mentally composing your response while the other person was still talking? We've become so addicted to doing, achieving, and optimizing that we've forgotten how to exist without an agenda. The space for contemplation, that precious mental real estate where creativity, insight, and genuine peace actually live, has been colonized by notifications, deadlines, and the constant hum of productivity culture. And here's the kicker. All this frantic activity isn't even making us more productive. It's just making us more tired, more scattered, and more disconnected from the very things that could actually bring us fulfillment. Now, here's where things get really interesting, and a bit uncomfortable for our achievement-obsessed minds. Lao Tzu, this mysterious figure who may or may not have existed, which is pretty fitting for, someone who taught about the power of letting go, left us with the Tao Te Ching, essentially a manual for living that completely flips our modern assumptions upside down. The central philosophy revolves around the Tao. Think of it as the universal flow, the natural rhythm of existence that we've somehow convinced ourselves we can improve upon. But here's Lao Tzu's radical proposition. What if the very things we're chasing so desperately are actually the source of our suffering? He poses these absolutely devastating questions that cut right to the heart of our modern dilemma: fame or self, which matters more? Self or wealth, which is more precious? Gain or loss, which is more painful? These aren't just philosophical riddles to ponder over green tea. They're direct challenges to everything our society has taught us to value. Think about it. We spend decades building our personal brands, accumulating followers, chasing recognition, and then wonder why we feel so empty when we finally get what we thought we wanted. Lao Tzu suggests that our attachment to these external validations is like trying to hold water in our hands. The tighter we squeeze, the more it slips away. The Tao Te Ching teaches us that contentment and inner peace aren't destinations we reach through achievement. They're states of being we access through detachment. It's not about becoming indifferent or apathetic. It's about recognizing that our happiness doesn't depend on controlling outcomes that are largely beyond our influence anyway. Here's what's truly revolutionary about this ancient wisdom. It suggests that the person who knows when to stop, who understands the art of enough, will stay forever safe. In a world that constantly screams more, faster, better, this idea feels almost subversive. Imagine actually being content with what you have right now, not as a stepping stone to something else, but as a complete experience in itself. Recent neuroscience research supports what Lao Tzu intuited centuries ago. Our brains are wired to adapt to whatever level of success or wealth we achieve, meaning that external accomplishments provide only temporary satisfaction before we're back to seeking the next hit. But detachment, the practice of engaging fully while holding outcomes lightly, creates a sustainable foundation for well-being that doesn't depend on constantly feeding the achievement monster. Here's something that'll blow your mind. What if the solution to our complex, overwhelming lives isn't more sophisticated systems, apps, or life hacks, but actually the complete opposite? Lao Tzu had this wild idea that simplicity isn't just aesthetically pleasing. It's literally the antidote to the stress that's eating us alive. While we're over here trying to optimize our morning routines with 17 different supplements and a meditation app that sends us notifications to be mindful, Ancient Taoism suggests we're missing the forest for the trees. The path to tranquility isn't about adding more practices to our already packed schedules. It's about stripping away the unnecessary layers we've accumulated like barnacles on a ship's hull. Think about it. When was the last time you felt truly peaceful? I bet it wasn't during your most productive day or after your biggest achievement. The beauty of Lao Tzu's approach is its radical simplicity. Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. Now, before you roll your eyes and think this sounds like some Instagram wellness guru's caption, consider what this actually means in practice. It's not about settling for less or giving up on growth. It's about recognizing that contentment is a skill, not a destination. When you can genuinely appreciate your current apartment instead of constantly browsing real estate apps, when you can enjoy your current job instead of endlessly scrolling LinkedIn, when you can be present with your actual friends instead of curating the perfect social media presence, that's when you start accessing the kind of peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. It's like discovering you've been carrying around a treasure chest while desperately searching for gold. What's fascinating is how this philosophy of simplicity directly counters our culture's obsession with complexity and choice. We've somehow convinced ourselves that having infinite options equals freedom. But anyone who spent 20 minutes trying to choose what to watch on Netflix knows that's not true. The paradox of choice isn't just overwhelming. It's exhausting our decision-making capacity and leaving us perpetually unsatisfied. Lao Tzu understood that fewer desires don't mean a smaller life. They mean a more focused, intentional, and ultimately more fulfilling existence. Recent studies on happiness consistently show that people who practice voluntary simplicity report higher levels of life satisfaction than those caught in the endless cycle of wanting more. It turns out that when you stop trying to have everything, you start appreciating what you actually have. And that shift in perspective changes everything. Let's be brutally honest about what our achievement society has created. A world where everyone's constantly performing their success, like actors who forgot they're in a play. We've turned life into this bizarre competition where the scorecard includes everything from your job title to your workout routine, and somehow, we're all both the contestants and the judges. The moment we started overvaluing talent and accomplishments, we created a culture where people will literally do anything to stand out, and I mean anything. Look around. Narcissism isn't just tolerated anymore. It's practically a career requirement, being humble or modest. That's cute, but it won't get you the promotion, the followers, or the recognition that our society has taught us we need to feel worthy. We've created a system where being a decent human being is less valuable than being an impressive one. Here's what's really messed up. This obsession with status has turned us all into walking advertisements for our own lives. We're not just living experiences, we're curating them for public consumption, constantly asking ourselves, how will this look to others? Instead of, how does this feel to me? The competitiveness has infected everything. Schools where kids are stressed out by age 10, workplaces that feel like gladiator arenas, and social media platforms that are basically 24/7 comparison festivals. We're so busy trying to outshine each other that we've forgotten what we're actually competing for. It's like we're all running a race where nobody knows where the finish line is, but everyone's convinced that slowing down means losing the result. A society full of people who are successful on paper, but miserable in reality. What Lao Tzu observed thousands of years ago is playing out in real time. When you overvalue possessions and achievements, people start behaving in increasingly unethical ways to get them. We're seeing this everywhere, from college admission scandals to influencer fraud to the general erosion of integrity in favor of results. The ancient wisdom warned us that showing off our treasures makes people envious, and boy, was that prophetic. Now we have entire industries built around making people feel inadequate so they'll buy products, courses, or experiences to catch up. The irony is thick in our quest to be impressive. We've created a world where everyone's too busy performing to actually connect with each other authentically. And connection, not competition, is what actually makes us happy. Here's something nobody talks about at those get-rich-quick seminars. The more stuff you accumulate, the more stuff you have to worry about. It's like this cosmic joke that Lao Tzu figured out centuries ago. Wealth doesn't just bring freedom, it brings a whole new category of problems you never knew existed. Think about it. When you have nothing, you can't lose anything. But when you have everything, you spend half your energy just protecting what you've got. Rich people don't sleep better. They just have more expensive security systems. They don't have fewer worries. They have different, often more complex worries. It's the ultimate catch-22. The very things we think will make us feel secure actually make us more anxious about losing our security. And let's talk about the social media aspect of this paradox. Because wow, has technology amplified this ancient wisdom? Every time someone posts their new car, vacation, or designer purchase, they're essentially painting a target on their back for envy, criticism, and judgment. The act of displaying wealth, whether it's material possessions or experiences, creates this weird dynamic where you're simultaneously seeking validation and inviting resentment. Lao Tzu warned that showing off treasures makes people envious, and now we have platforms specifically designed for showing off, with algorithms that reward the most attention-grabbing displays of success. The result? A culture where people are literally performing their prosperity while secretly feeling more isolated and anxious than ever. What's particularly twisted is how this creates a vicious cycle. We accumulate wealth and status symbols to feel better about ourselves. But then we have to constantly defend, maintain, and upgrade them to keep up with the very game we thought winning would free us from. It's like buying a boat. The two happiest days are when you buy it and when you sell it. But nobody talks about all the maintenance, storage, and worry in between. The wealthy often become prisoners of their own success, trapped by the very things they thought would liberate them. Recent psychological research confirms what Lao Tzu intuited beyond meeting basic needs. Additional wealth correlates weakly with happiness, but strongly with increased stress about maintaining that wealth. The ancient sage's advice to be content with less isn't about deprivation. It's about freedom from the exhausting job of protecting what you think you need to be happy. Okay, here's where Lao Tzu gets really radical, and where most of us start squirming uncomfortably. He introduces this concept called Wu Wei, which literally translates to not doing, but before you panic and think this means becoming a couch potato, hear me out. Wu Wei isn't about being lazy. It's about recognizing when your efforts are actually making things worse. Picture yourself trying to swim upstream against a powerful current. You're expending massive amounts of energy, getting exhausted, and barely making progress. Now imagine turning around and flowing with that same current, using its power to carry you forward with minimal effort. That's Wu Wei in action. It's the art of working with natural forces rather than against them, and it's probably the most counterintuitive productivity hack you'll ever encounter. Here's something that'll make every ambitious person's eye twitch. Lao Tzu actually suggests that climbing to the top of the ladder might be the worst thing you can do for your peace of mind. Think about it. The higher you climb in any hierarchy, the more people are gunning for your position, the more stress you carry, and the further you have to fall. CEOs have higher rates of anxiety and depression than middle managers. Celebrities struggle with mental health issues, despite having everything, and social media influencers burn out faster than candles in a hurricane. What Lao Tzu understood is that there's incredible wisdom in choosing the middle path, not because you're settling for mediocrity, but because you're optimizing for sustainability and actual happiness rather than external validation. The beautiful irony is that by not desperately chasing the highest positions, you often end up more fulfilled than those who do reach the summit. Let's also talk about the modern myth that's literally rewiring our brains for failure: multitasking. We've somehow convinced ourselves that doing 17 things at once makes us more productive, when in reality, it's like trying to have 7 conversations simultaneously. You're not really present for any of them. The ancient wisdom warns us that those who rush ahead don't get very far, and our obsession with doing more, faster, has created this bizarre reality where being busy has become a status symbol. The get-rich-quick mentality that dominates our culture is the perfect example of this rushed approach backfiring spectacularly. Real success, the kind that's sustainable and fulfilling, follows natural laws of development that can't be hacked or optimized away. It's like trying to force a flower to bloom faster by pulling on its petals. You'll destroy the very thing you're trying to nurture. Lao Tzu's wisdom emphasizes that balance, simplicity, and harmony are essential for a fulfilling life. By stepping away from societal pressures for material success and constant achievement, we can find genuine tranquility. The concept of Wu Wei, or non-action, teaches us to act in harmony with life's natural flow, reducing unnecessary struggles. Delving into Taoist teachings offers practical solutions for modern life's pressures, reminding us that true strength lies in gentleness and flexibility. If you found this exploration insightful, please like this video to support our content. Don't forget to share it with others who might benefit from these teachings. For more content on ancient philosophies and their modern applications, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated.